Okay, I'm going to call this meeting to order of the Local Asian Agency Formation Commission. Okay, please rise for pledge to our flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll now have the introduction of the commissioners and then the staff. We'll start to my right.
Amy Black, city member.
Bill Berryhill, public member.
Jim DeMartini, county member.
Mike Van Winkle, city member.
Terry Withrow, county member.
Javier Camarena, assistant executive officer.
Sarah Lytle Penny, executive officer.
Alice Mims, LAFCO counsel.
Jennifer Vieira, Commission Clerk, and we should have Commissioner O'Brien on teleconference. Commissioner O'Brien, are you
Commissioner
there?
O'Brien is an alternate member.
Thank you.
Okay, this is the time for our meeting where public comment. Any member of the public wishes to make a comment on a non-agenda item, this would be the time. Do we have anybody that's called in or sent an email?
No, we do not.
Okay, seeing none, we will move to approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I was going to ask anybody to make any amendments or anything to that, but apparently not, so we just have a motion to approve as is and second. Commissioner O'Brien wouldn't vote in this as an alternate, would he?
Correct.
In this?
I wasn't here, so I don't think I can vote.
If you want to recuse yourself because you weren't here, then Commissioner O'Brien can vote, and we'll do a roll call to make sure he's captured.
Okay, if we're going to have Commissioner O'Brien vote, then we have to do a roll call vote.
Yeah.
Commissioner Bublak? Yeah. Commissioner Berryhill?
Aye.
Commissioner Van Winkle?
I'll recuse myself since I wasn't here.
Commissioner Withrow?
Aye.
Commissioner O'Brien?
Aye.
And Commissioner DeMartini.
Aye. Okay, motion passes unanimously. Is there any correspondence that we need to go over tonight?
No, there's no specific or informational correspondence.
Bless you.
Okay. A declaration of conflicts. Any member of the commission wish to declare a conflict of interest? Okay, seeing none, we will move to the consent calendar. Any of the commissioners wish to pull this item from the consent calendar for further discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion then to approve this item.
Motion to approve.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so O'Brien would not vote on this one here, so we can just do a voice vote. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion is carried. We will now move to agenda item 7A for our public hearing on out-of-service application to the Spencer Marshall, the sewer project for the city of Modesto.
Good evening, Commissioners. Javier Camarena with LAFCO. The item we have this evening is a fairly basic, quick item here. We'll go over. It's out-of-boundary service application for the city of Modesto in the Spencer Marshall neighborhood. The application is for the city of Modesto to provide sewer service to an unincorporated area on the west side. The location, the site is located south of Mays Boulevard, west of South Martin Luther King Drive, north of California Avenue, and east of South Emerald Avenue. The project is the first phase of the larger West Modesto sewer infrastructure project. This is the first phase, and you could see on this map, the first phase is in blue. The following phases in orange and pink, those will be coming at a later time, but those will also require LAFCO approval. So the only site we're currently looking at is this area in the blue. Staff believes that the project is consistent with Commission Policy 15 and state law. A discussion of these items can be found on pages 2 and 3 of the EO report. The Commission has approved similar area-wide extensions of sewer and/or water services in the past for specific unincorporated areas such as the one proposed. Staff's recommendation can be found on pages 4 and 5 of the staff reports, which recommends approval of the out-of-boundary application. Any additional extensions outside of the proposed area would require LAFCO approval. Staff is available for questions, and this concludes my presentation.
Any commissioners have questions of staff?
I'm assuming the rest of this is all incorporated through the city, or is the surrounding areas, except for these 3 parcels that you said? Is the rest of it all
No,
in the
this
city
is
limits?
the proposed area actually contains 144 parcels. It's 53 acres that's being proposed to have sewer services provided by the city of Modesto. The other 2 are the second and third phases of the larger West Modesto sewer project.
But the surrounding areas, are they incorporated?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, all this area you see in green, that's already incorporated into the city of Modesto.
So this is an island, then?
Correct. Yeah, it's an island.
So I'm glad to see this going through. When these 3 projects are done, I think that's going to cover practically the whole area. So little by little, we've been gradually hooking the stuff up to sewer.
This has been a long time coming, and we're happy to see it finally coming to fruition here. And the next hurdle is to try to find funding to help these people hook up to these sewer lines. So that's what we're working on next. So.
Commissioner O'Brien, would you like to make any comments on this item?
No, but only when we start incorporating islands, we will have to make sure that we can address the amenities to bring them up to the standards that the cities have.
Well, you mean like sidewalks or drains? Is that what you mean?
Right, sidewalks, storm drain, MS4 requirements, especially that, which is very expensive for the cities, and we need to start looking at how we can collectively, as a county, start doing the MS4 requirements.
I think, Richard, this is the first step of, we're going to get all these sewer lines hooked up here first, and we are already looking to try to figure out how to eventually get curbs, gutters, and sidewalks so that the cities would be willing to accept them at that point. So we're working on all that.
Does this
I realize that, sir. I'm just hoping that as we move forward, we can do it in a very logical throughout the entire county.
Is this island hooked up to city water?
I believe the majority of it is.
They're not on wells, are they?
There's some larger parcels out there that may still be on wells, but the majority of the smaller residential-sized parcels are.
Well, this looks like a good project that everybody should be for. We've done projects in South Modesto, in my district, and Bret Hart, Park Lawn, and Shackelford was completely done with sidewalks and everything. So we're going through the county, piece by piece. And the airport district they had a project done. Robertson Road was another project, and we're gradually moving through here. Is I think probably the first thing that needs to be done that they have good water. They hooked up the city water first, and then the sewer system, and then sidewalks, storm drains, and I think a lot of them have lighting districts already. So we're gradually bringing them up to snuff. But these are very expensive projects, and that's why we can only do one at a time. But we've done a lot of them. And I think we're near the end now. Okay, any other comments? Anybody?
Just for clarification, this isn't hooking up to their houses. This is just getting the lines down to the street.
Right. This is only approving the ability of the city of Modesto to serve them since it's outside their boundary.
Yeah.
Okay, if we can, I'll make a motion to approve staff recommendations.
Okay, motion been made to approve staff recommendations. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed to the motion? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Okay, we will now move to agenda item 8, or 7B, excuse me. And this is the LAFCO budget.
Yeah. So tonight we'll be reviewing the LAFCO budget for fiscal year 2020 to 2021. And the Commission's actions will potentially include approval of the proposed budget as well as a conditional approval of the final budget, which we'll talk about a little later. So LAFCO, of course, is funded by the county and its 9 cities. Historically, the Commission has used undesignated fund balance to offset agency contributions. Projections for the upcoming year had warned of agency contributions rising to a level over $500,000 to match the operating budget of LAFCO. Given the current situation and the concerns of the funding agencies, staff is recommending a delay in the sharp increase of agency contributions for this upcoming year, in response to that. And these are some of the strategies used to delay that increase. They include using $25,000 in fund balance to offset agency contributions, deferring the biennial audit until should be the next fiscal year, reduce education and training, defer increases to the long-term liability reserve fund, which the Commission had been building up. So we'll put a pause on that. Here's what the proposed budget looks like in comparison to the current year. There is still an overall increase of the operating expenses as predicted during last year's budget. However, we are again using undesignated fund balance to help soften this increase and to keep the agency contributions below that $500,000 mark for the funding of LAFCO. Some of the highlights in your report, the things that we're seeing this year for the budget are, of course, the salary and retirement increases. Those correspond directly to the county benefit system, which LAFCO employees are under. There was also a slight decrease in health insurance costs. We saw larger than normal increases in the liability insurance for the Commission and also our membership rates to our association, Cal LAFCO. Those have been discussed for the past 2 or 3 years. They redid their rate structure for the association, and the timing of it is not great, but it was something that was voted on by the membership late last year. Overall, this budget will support the core LAFCO services, and it will continue our municipal service review work program and allow us to continue processing the applications that we're receiving. And this is just a look at the reserve funds that the Commission currently maintains based on its policy. Really the only one of these that has been increased slightly since the prior year was the general fund reserve, the 15%. That long-term liability we're keeping at the $100,000 level, and we'll look at building that up in future budget years. This is a breakdown of the agency allocations for this year, just to remind the Commission of kind of what it looks like, what each of the cities and the county, of course, with its 50% allocation. There's a more detailed chart on page 8 of your report showing what each city would potentially be paying as compared to last year. I always like to include that because part of what each city pays actually depends on their revenues as reported to the state. So slight changes in a city's revenue from a particular year could affect its allocation to LAFCO. As an example, if you look at that chart, City of Patterson reported some higher revenues than they had in the past relative to the other cities, and so their share has gone up a little bit. And then if you also look at that chart, Houston's allocation for this year is actually projected to go down. So they'll pay, I think it was $80 less than they did last year, even though the overall LAFCO budget has been increased. So just looking quickly at our work program and our application activity, of course, in the calendar year for 2019, we completed the Commission's work program, and we are currently making progress on the 2020 work program. We've processed 6 annexation applications, 4 service extension applications, and then we did a fire service contract. And staff continues to receive inquiries and referrals about upcoming applications. Many of these involve subdivisions and development that's already been approved, and they're just fulfilling a condition of that approval, either being annexed into a district or county service area to pay for fees. So we still have applications that are in process. So the recommendation tonight is to go ahead and conduct the public hearing. Then we have prepared for you Resolution 2020-05, which would approve the proposed budget, and Resolution 2020-06, which would conditionally approve the final budget. We're doing that because LAFCO must approve a proposed budget by May 1st and a final budget by June 15th. So what staff is recommending here is that along with the approval of the proposed budget tonight, the Commission also approve a final budget with the condition that should anyone call for an additional hearing, whether that be a commissioner or funding agency or staff, within a noticeable time frame, that the final budget will become effective on May 15th. So that would accommodate the Commission potentially canceling its May meeting. We would still be able to pass the budget in the required time frame. And then your third recommendation there is just that upon the effective date, staff will end up sending a request for the auditor to complete their apportionment for the to finish the budget process. And I'm available for any questions.
Okay, is there any questions to staff at this time?
This is Richard O'Brien. May I have a question?
Yes, go ahead.
As you move forward, is there a possibility when somebody comes in for a proposal that we find a way to charge them the appropriate amount, whether it's county, city, or individual,
So,
instead of putting your budget, making it languish?
so when applicants come in currently, they are charged actual cost. What we do is the application fee itself is considered a deposit. So they pay what we think it's going to cost up front, and then as that application moves forward, if it becomes more complicated, we charge them the difference. If it's less complicated for some reason, if it's straightforward, we actually refund the difference. But by law, we're not allowed to charge more than the actual cost. So we keep track of all of it: postage, paper, staff time, as well as attorney costs if there's time for extra review, surveyor costs, things like that. So it depends on the complexity of the application, but we do nitpick and pretty much calculate the actual cost of that application. So we wouldn't be able to profit.
For example, I just want to say, if your total budget for your total salaries are X amount, and you can project out what it is going to happen over the year, these are the costs it's going to incur, even keeping your office open. Is that possible, or am I just fishing wildly? Which I can't fish right now.
So are you
Yeah,
asking,
this weekend you should be.
is
able
it
to finish.
possible for applications to cover the entire cost of staff and office?
Right. If you can project out for the total year, let's say for your amount that you're asking for your budget, divided by 12, and whatever the applications are, if they're covering a month, they cover that month with the entire payments.
I will say, based on even the history of LAFCO, we don't receive more than, we had a big year, $30,000 worth of application fees. Percentage-wise, that's a very small portion of our budget, and that's not uncommon throughout the state to receive, a low portion of application fees covering that. But we could certainly look at revising the application cost to ensure that it's covering overhead, but I don't think you'll ever fully get, 100% applications covering the cost of LAFCO, and that's partly because some of the work we do, a lot of the work that we do is municipal service reviews and other state mandated things that don't have a cost associated with them. So there's a large chunk there that's a unfunded state mandate that's being passed on to the cities and the county.
I'm a fan of unfunded mandates. Thank you, Sarah.
Okay, do we have anybody from the public who sent in an email or has called us on this item?
We have not received anything.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I got one question for Sarah. On the insurance, they're talking about potentially a 30% increase. Is there any, I assume SDRMA, the authority, is there any, is that a government agency, a state agency that insures?
It's actually an association of special districts all getting together to
So,
try to get a
okay.
good rate.
What's their reason for why they're looking at, is it increased liability laws that have been put on the books? And they're
Across
just-
the board, I think it's just increased liability and also things that have happened throughout the state. I know the county's liability, I think, was going up, liability insurance was going up something like 40 or 45%.
Yeah,
So it's just
huge lawsuits.
Disasters and things that are happening, and
And
yeah.
everybody who runs off the road and injures themselves sues the county.
County's fault, yeah.
There
The
are some
lawsuits are
credits
incredible.
that we get every year just from doing our own safety training and things that we report back to them to try to lower that amount every year, and we try to do as many of those that we can to get extra credit. But they sent us kind of a warning letter to that effect, and we compared to the other LAFCOs, and they were all getting the same sort of thing,
Yeah,
including the county.
Any other questions?
If I could just throw this out there, you know, we set aside this reserve, right, this 15% reserve for times when you need the reserve, and I can't think of a better time that we might need to go into our reserve a little bit right now. And so just a thought for all of you to think about. You know, we are asking the cities to come up with another $34,000 here, but I know there's maybe one there that's not having to. But maybe now's the time that we try to minimize that a little bit. As bad as things are going to be over the next, whatever, 3-4 quarters here. Just a thought. Maybe this reserve, the reason we set this reserve up is for bad times, and maybe we try to stay the course and not have to increase fees to everybody. Pull a little bit more out of our reserve for this next year, just as a token. One less thing for the cities to have to worry about. Just a thought.
How much would you suggest?
If it was me, I would probably say no change. I wouldn't increase it this year. So I'd pull. We're talking 25,000. I guess that would be 59,000 maybe. But just a thought.
Yeah.
You guys think about it. Maybe you don't want to do that. Just thinking one less thing for a city to have to worry about right now. And we did set aside reserves for, not for the virus. I don't think that was in our thought process at the time, but it is now, and it just might be something to help.
The one consideration with that would be next year. I would be worried about, not knowing how long this is going to go right now, even, collecting a check from somebody now versus collecting a check next year when we don't have as much to offset with. That might be a consideration, kind of spreading out the fund balance a little bit, but I don't know.
Just a thought, whatever everybody thinks. I would just stay the course.
Portion of it, not
Yeah.
all of it, maybe.
Yeah, maybe not all of it. Take whatever you guys think.
I'd like to chime in. The cities are going to take a pretty good hit. I'm sure the county is too, especially when we are either delaying, postponing some of the sales tax that the governor has already authorized through his ability to be whatever the legislature gave him. I was going to say something that probably wasn't kind, but delaying or preventing sales tax being paid back to cities and counties is going to hurt significantly. It's going to hurt the city of Riverbank by 30% by the projected loss of revenue. 30% may be becoming part of the county if I cannot make it up. And I'm not saying that don't charge us appropriately, but be prepared to next year you may not be able to charge us at all. I know Turlock is on the edge, and I know Modesto is on the edge. And I would like to be very cognizant of where we are going in taxation as we move forward. I know that we are still in negotiations for tax sharing, but as we go forward on that, that won't make up the deficit of what we are going to lose just in sales tax. And we don't know what property taxes will be like in our next round, next quarter, or even in October. So I know most of the cities are extremely concerned, and I think all of them are concerned.
So Richard, were you for were you for reducing it, the increase a little bit? Is that what you were saying? I'm sorry, I just...
No, I'm not in for the increase right now. What I am looking at is in the future, we may not even have the funding to pay our bills next year.
So you're okay with this increase this year? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not
sorry.
saying do it. I'm saying maintain the status quo,
Okay.
and then next year, let's take a look at it.
I think next year is when you're going to really feel the property tax along with the sales tax. You wouldn't-
I'm not sure the property tax is really going to drop. Let's see. I mean,
We didn't think it was going to during the recession, and it sure did. And it cut our property income tax down dramatically, as well did sales tax.
we hope this is just temporary here. It's only been going on for like 35 days. I don't know. We just threw away $2.7 million last night on the homeless, and we're trying to come up with just a little pittance here of $500,000 to keep LAFCO going. Kind of shows you where our priorities are. That's the way I see it.
So just, you guys weigh in. Do you want to go ahead and go with this as it's proposed, or try to cut it back, the increase to the cities? Up to you guys.
I think you cut it back a little bit if you can for the city.
I'd agree. That would be a great gesture as far as the city goes. We would love not to have to pay more if at all possible.
So what is, if I read this right, the increase for the cities is $34,000 is from last year? Not
Yeah,
sure.
if you like, you can include in the commission's action, I would include something to the effect of using the reserves or any other remaining undesignated fund balance to offset agency contributions to the level that they are in the current year budget. And then that way we don't accidentally say, $6 and it's,
Right.
Terry could probably do the math right now, but.
No, that's good. Yeah, just leave it.
And that also, that makes clear the commission's intent, though, as well, and where it's coming from and why it's happening.
So moved. Well, actually, I should let you. I apologize.
No, it's okay. So I'll make a motion that we just don't increase the city's fees for this year, and we draw from our reserves, undesignated funds, whatever that dollar amount might be, to get us to where it's a net no increase. Yeah, 0 increase to the cities.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, and further discussion. I mean, the county would pay the full cost. We pay 50%, so we'll pay our increase. We're flush with money right now.
Just
When
another
the next homeless hotel opens up.
just another example of the county helping the cities.
Another example.
Okay, well, 34,000 isn't that much, so it's okay.
And I guess, does the commission want to go ahead and have that reflected in both the resolution adopting the proposed budget and then the conditional adoption of the final budget? Or did you need clarification on any of that. What we're doing tonight is we would be approving the proposed and final budget with the amendment. The condition that we placed on that final budget is essentially if anybody calls for an additional hearing for the final budget, we'll do that, but otherwise the final budget will become effective by the date specified, May 15th. So make sure that's all, that in effect is in your motion.
Perfect. Okay, that's it. That was it, and we have a second there.
Okay, any other discussion? I think it's clear what we're doing. Okay, I'll entertain the motion. Well, the motion's been made and seconded already. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, we will go on to other business, which I don't have any in front of me. And Commissioner comments? Anybody on the board wish to make a comment? Okay. I don't have anything further myself in the executive director's report.
Okay. So on the horizon, we were going to go ahead and recommend cancellation of the May meeting unless an additional hearing is requested for any reason. We do have a couple of service reviews that are in progress as we speak, and then we've been coordinating with the county regarding actually 4 applications involving county service areas that are in some form of progress that we should be seeing in the next coming months, but not in May, so we're recommending to go ahead and cancel May. And the next meeting would be June 24th. That's all I have.
Okay. Just as a question, on the Newman annexation there, I guess that's going out for election, isn't it? It's
Yeah, they have an
it's a
August
ballot
date
initiative.
for their election, so we won't be hearing back until after those results are certified, and then we'll either from there, if it's upheld or terminated, we'll do the appropriate action. But we should be hearing in August, hopefully.
That's when their election is.
Right.
That's just a very few people that live in that area, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that looks like it's the conclusion of our business. This meeting stands adjourned until June 24th.